Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I've been to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time, just scraped all the questions off the first couple pages, and we're going to answer them now, while some footage of Dragon Ball FighterZ plays in the background, because it's a better game than Overwatch. And if you're wondering which side I started on, just look for whichever side has the blueberry-flavored Android 21 on it. So first off, let's start with the easy question. Which supports can heal a friendly, invisible Sombra without revealing her? So the ones that, will most obviously give her away are Mercy, because the beam just kind of stops halfway to her, so it's pretty obvious roughly where she is at least. And then the other obvious ones are Bridget and Zenyatta. Bridget, Zenyatta, the orb, once it's on her, you can't see it, but you can see her throw the Harmony Orb to her. So if you're watching Zen, you can just see the orb go whoop straight past you, and you're like, well, someone's back there. Bridget's the same deal. The armor pack, once it's on her, like the pulse it does when it's on a person, that doesn't happen, but you can see her chuck the armor pack at the Sombra. So if you're watching Bridget, you'll see it fly to the Sombra. The others don't, obvious... Well, no. Ana somewhat obviously can give her away, because if she's scoped, you've got, the tracer lines behind Ana's shot. That just stops if it hits Sombra, so that could give it away. Everyone else doesn't immediately give her away, unless you're doing it in a really obvious fashion. Like, if you're Moira and you're just, spraying nothing, that's a little suspicious, you know? Or if you chucked the healing orb in, you'd see it start draining, though not, obviously tethering to anybody, so that could also give it away, but... And, Baptiste could give it away. Again, if you're shooting grenades at nothingness, you know, you're gonna give it away like that, but... the really obvious one is Mercy, Bridget, and Zen. But even Zen, if they're not watching what you're doing, they're not gonna see the Harmony Orb fly to the person. And if you can do it out of line of sight as well, it's invisible once it's on her, so that's fine. They're the obvious, Mercy's the big one. The beam just stops, dude, it's terrible. Anyway, those are the obvious ones that give her away. So, next up is, as a support, what do I do when we don't have a shield tank? I mean, the same thing you do as everyone when you don't have a shield tank. You only really get one choice in this situation, and that's use a lot more natural cover. You can't really do anything else unless you're gonna, magic up a shield out of nothingness, or, use Roadhog as cover, you know. You haven't got many options. You've just got to use the cover on the map, so play around corners a lot more. Try and play around, health kits if you can, though not every map makes it convenient to play around health kits either, because they can just sort of help you, shrug off some of the poke damage you'll be taking. But whether or not a health kit is in a convenient place will vary heavily from map to map. And, yeah, that's basically it. You can try picking supports that are a little bit more, self-sufficient, by which I mean basically they can heal themselves more easily. Because someone like Baptiste, it's pretty inconvenient for Baptiste to heal himself, right? Same for, Ana, right? You have to use, pretty important cooldowns, with, long cooldowns as well, just to heal yourself. It's a little inconvenient. Someone like Moira, Lucia, Mercy even, they heal themselves a lot more easily than, Ana and Baptiste do, so changing to them could also help. Just because, you know, if you don't have a shield, you're gonna take more poke damage. I have missed the kill on this guy 7 times now. It's terrible. You're gonna take a lot more poke damage when there's no shields, usually, so being able to heal yourself more easily will help with that as well, but that's, really all you can do. There's nothing else to be done. You can try and control high ground as well. It's usually harder to take damage on the high ground. Yeah, that's really it, to be honest with you, as a support. The thing is, as well, is that, if you're a support, you've got, less options than a DPS would, because if you're a DPS, you can just change to a DPS that doesn't need a shield, right? Because there are such things, flankers. Typically, they don't give a fuck if you don't have a shield or not, right? Because they weren't going to be using the shield very often anyway. So, you know, they've got that option. if you're a healer, you don't have that option, right? Like, outside of, I guess, Lucio. Maybe, depending on how you think of Lucio. I still think of that one Reddit comment from, like, 2 weeks ago, where it was like, how do you deal with the Widow as a support? Pick Lucio, the support Genji. Yeah, that's how a lot of people are, treat that boy. Yeah, those are your only options, really. Sorry, you know, gotta use walls instead of shields. I know, how archaic, right? Fucking, we might as well be going at them with some pointy fucking sticks. Jesus Christ. So next up, is it really that bad to don't play shield in comp? Yes, that is exactly how it was phrased. I copy and paste these things. I mean, so a lot of people will tell you, like, I'm also going to tell you that no, you don't need to play shield. It's context sensitive, right? Like, if your whole team is playing, like, a dive comp, and you're gonna pick, like, Reinhardt, you know, your shield's not gonna get a massive amount of value. You might be better off picking, like, Winston or Hammond, right? But, like, for probably, like, 75% of situations, you're gonna want a shield tank, right? Because, like, I told you that, and people will tell you, no, you don't need to pick a shield. But, like, simultaneously, people will also tell you, if you don't have a shield, your DPS are not gonna be able to get shit done very easily, right? Unless they're, like, dive comps and snipers. But everybody else kind of wants a shield. Even snipers kind of want a shield, right? So, no, you don't have to on a strictly literal level, but it is strongly encouraged that you pick a shield tank. At least one, right? Like, it's heavily incentivized. And this has been the case for a while. It's just gotten, like, more that way as of lately, you know? But it was always this way, with like, ladder, at least, and people will point to, like, pros as an exception of, like, shields being obsolete. That's completely pointless for the experience of 90% of people on ladder, right? Every comp that doesn't require a shield tank is more complicated to run than a shield tank comp, right? And this is the main reason that shield tanks are always going to be good for ladder at the very least. A dive comp takes coordination to execute well. You cannot depend on that in comp, right? If you're in an organized setting, sure, you know, these comps that require more coordination are easier to pull off because you've got the coordination. You're not always going to have that in comp games. And a shield comp is just the easiest to understand, dude. Like, everybody knows how you play with a Reinhardt. Everyone knows how you play with a Narissa, right? Not everyone knows how you play with a Hammond or a Winston, right? Not everyone knows what you do in those situations. This leads to people thinking things like, is Hammond/Winston even a main tank? The answer is yes, but your team needs to work with you, and not everyone knows how you play around those tanks. This is a question I see very frequently on the subreddit when I'm scraping shit. It's, how do you play with Hammond as the other tank? How do you play with Winston as the other tank? And the answer is, like, they're disrupting people, brother. You're meant to use that disruption to go in and try and, like, make plays off of it. The trick is that the tricky thing about that is it takes a lot more work to work with a Winston or a Hammond, right? Like, you have to put more effort into coordinating with that guy to fully enable him to create space. Whereas Reinhardt stands there and holds right-click, brother. That's what Reinhardt does, and Reinhardt made space. What do you need to do to contribute to Reinhardt or Orisa making space? You stand behind their shield. That's a lot easier. So, shields are always going to be better on comp, or, like, very heavily incentivized to be picked on comp. Even when people were like, Reinhardt was dead, right? You know, he was still pretty good, for comp at least, because everybody knows how you play with Reinhardt. They don't always do it, but everyone knows what to do. But with Hammond, they're like, What do? He just, like, goes in and he slams into the bad men and then just, like, feeds a bunch of ult charge. What do? Well, the thing is, brother, while he was doing that, you were meant to be doing something. You weren't meant to be just looking at Hammond going, what the fuck is that idiot doing? He's just feeding. While he was doing that, you were meant to be doing something other than gawking at him, which is what usually happens when there's a Hammond or a Winston on your team. They watch you go in, and they go, what the fuck, he's just feeding. Rather than coming and helping while 3 people are focusing you, right? Anyway, so that's, like, yes, you don't need to play a shield, but it is very heavily incentivized that you play shield. Next up is, where should you go to group up? I mean, this answer varies a lot from stage to stage, but it's just, like, a place that's far back and safe, right? You know, like, what are some examples? The first one that came to mind was Paris, checkpoint 1, right? You want it to be, like, close to the action, but still safe. So Paris, like, checkpoint 1, you group up outside the choke point. Like, you go out the fork at the front, you gather up on one side of the fork before you come out into the death trench, right? Like, you know. Checkpoint 2, outside the gates of Disney Castle, right? Not outside the gates of Disney Castle, outside the door of Disney Castle. The gate's a little egregious, that's kind of far back. You know, you just want it to be somewhere close and safe. Sometimes the safest place is, like, in-spawn. Like, Hanamura, checkpoint A. It's kind of risky to go up to the choke point, right? Like, the ideal place would be right around the corner from the gate. Next to the, like, ramen bar, like the corner, but sometimes getting up there is hazardous because of the window, so you're left with basically the other end of the street and the spawn. You know? Checkpoint 2 for Hanamura, it's like going up to the doors themselves is also scary because of all the windows. So the safest place to group up there is right at the gate at the rock garden, right as it comes into, like, the because you're in the rock garden, you turn right, there's the gate there. That, like, around that gate is, like, the safest place to group up. Though ideally it would be, like, up near one of the doors, but again, that can be scary to approach. So, you know, it's just the place that's furthest up, or closest to the choke point, I should say, that is still a safe location, pretty much. Because you don't want to be trying to group up somewhere where people are just going to get picked off and die while they're regrouping, because then it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of never-ending cycle of people dying as they're going to regroup, right? You don't want your regrouping spot to be hazardous. So, furthest place up that is still a safe location. Where that is, it varies a lot from stage to stage. Hopefully those couple of examples give you a rough idea. I guess we could do one more example, get a nice 3 examples, right? Rule of 3 and all that. I'm trying to think of, like, a really obvious example of a place to group up. I guess Eichenwald, like, checkpoint 1, I mean, this is all from the perspective of the attackers. The defenders, you know, you group up on, like, your side of the choke point, right? Like, they're fairly obvious near the point. So, like, Eichenwald, first checkpoint, it's, like, the second corner, there's the room with the big health kit in it. Somewhere in the vicinity of that room is, like, the closest you can do that's still safe. Second checkpoint, it's going to depend how far you are pushed up on that map, but basically, like, one corner behind the payload. So, if you're, like, up to the bridge, then it's the corner closest to the gate, right? You go through, the gate opens, you turn left, and then right. That right corner is basically the safest place you could group up at that point. Let's see, if you were still at the first check, if you were, like, had just opened the gate or something for the second checkpoint, it would be right outside that door, right outside the door that the gate that opens, basically. And then the third checkpoint, it's right outside the door, unless they're standing in the doorway, which is not usually recommended, but if they are, then it's, like, in spawn, essentially. Otherwise, it's, like, by the gate at basically all times, because the corners in there are not, like, far enough away to be safe to group up to. Because you could be up to, like, literally right at the end of the track, and it's still not safe to group up inside of that, inside of the castle at all, right? You still wait outside the gate. Yeah, so hopefully those examples give you a rough idea of what to look for where you're trying to group up. Closest place that's still safe. So, next up is it possible for teams to just sustain my damage as Pharah? Well, it depends how good you are at Pharah, brother. If you are not very good at Pharah, yes. But simultaneously, if you're not very good at Widowmaker, it's possible to sustain the damage, right? So, you can kind of say that about anyone. The thing is with Pharah is that they nerfed the splash damage a while ago and buffed the direct hit damage, so you kind of need to be good at Pharah for... you don't necessarily need to be good, you need to be decent at Pharah, at least. You need to be landing, like, a rough number of direct hits, right? If you're talking about, like, solely killing a guy off of splash damage, or pressuring them off of splash damage, that's not really feasible anymore. You need to be, like, landing some direct hits in here. Because if they've got, like, Lucio, Moira Baptiste, something like that, they can definitely sustain through your damage if you're not landing direct hits. Now, if you're landing direct hits, particularly on squishy members, it's not even possible. No, there's no way. Because, like, 2 direct rockets as Pharah, like, you killed the guy, right? You didn't, like, straight up kill the guy, probably. But you basically killed that guy, right? Like, that guy is definitely not long for this world if he survived. So, yeah, if you're landing a good number of direct hits, then no. As long as it's on a squishy member of the team. Pharah does a lot of burst damage. He's not great, like, necessarily with the sustained damage, but if you're focusing a squishy and landing direct hits, they can't sustain through it. If you're focusing a tank and landing direct hits, they can sustain through it just because they have a big health pool. Or damage mitigation. Squishy targets can't do it. You will kill them as long as you're landing direct hits. If it's just splash damage, nah, they'll be able to heal through it, but otherwise, nah, you'll get them. You'll get them. It is theoretically still possible, but, like, the people would have, like, the healers would need to be really focusing on keeping that motherfucker alive, right? Like, if you were trying to if you're trying to pop, like, a McCree and you're landing direct hits, they could possibly keep him alive. But it would be a lot of effort. And at that point, like, you're still kind of, like, doing your job, because at that point you're talking about occupying one of the DPS's attention and the healer's attention, right? Like, both of them probably. At least their main healer, though. So, you're still, like, fulfilling the job of the flanker of, like, justifying an uneven response. So, the short answer is no, as long as you're good at Pharah, basically. So, there you go. Short answer. It's probably going to be a shorter episode this week. Most of these answers are, like, pretty straightforward. There weren't that many, like, in-depth questions this week, to be honest with you. There was, like, what's the difference between a main healer and offio, but we talked about that last week. Let's try not to double up too much, right? You know, we end up repeating ourselves a lot on this show. That's just kind of me, though. I like to repeat myself a lot. I've already repeated myself at least 20 times this video alone. I like to do that, but let's try and not be too egregious about it now. Goodness me. So, yeah. Next up is my healing strategy of only enabling and not babysitting players wrong? So this is largely in regards to, like, babysitting as in keeping a guy that's not very good alive. And I think of this in the same way I think of, like, risk and reward, basically. Where with, like, risk and reward, you're thinking, what is my potential payoff for what I'm doing versus the risk of what I'm doing, right? Like, well, I'm risking dying for, like, 10% ult charge. Not really a good risk-reward investment, right? I'm risking dying to kill 3 people. Now we're talking about some decent risk and reward, right? Like, maybe I kill 3 people, you know, as long as there's still a decent chance of actually pulling that off. Please let me... Oh, God, it's because the controller fell. Oh, God. No, it's not. Yes, it is because the controller fell. Okay. You know, there's still not necessarily a great chance of you pulling off this play, but, you know, that's the kind of thing you're thinking about with risk and reward. I think of, like, the attention I give to someone as a support the same thing, where I'm basically thinking, instead of what's my risk and reward, what's my potential return on investment here? I think of it like a stock portfolio, right? Like, what am I investing in right now, you know? Oh, the level 25 Diamond Widowmaker. Now, this feels like it's probably a safe investment. This feels like I'm probably buying stock in, like, Microsoft, right? That's probably a pretty good, like, you know, you got a decent chance of this stock being worth something. Whereas the, like, Diamond level Genji that's still in silver, this doesn't seem like necessarily a great potential return on investment right here, does it? You know, I think I might be buying MySpace stock right now, you know? Like Dig. Remember Dig? God damn, Dig. And then just Reddit came along and really killed that one. I remember a story where, like, Dig, someone offered to buy the website from them for something like $3 million. It was a decent chunk of money. It was probably more than that, but it was like a decent chunk of money, and they rejected it. But Dig, of course, became completely worthless once, like, Reddit happened, essentially. So they ended up selling Dig for something like $300,000 instead. It was really fucking sad. Anyway, so, you know, I think of it like that, kind of like that when I'm playing support, right? Like, you know, I feel like this Genji player over here, he's not so good. I might not be investing my money wisely here, you know. You're trying to, like, you know, you're trying to find your best potential chance of winning, and that is usually enabling the best player on your team, not babysitting the worst player on your team. Now, with that said, you don't want to take that too far the other way. Like, you're not going to leave the guy to die, right? Like, the level 800 hard-stuck Silver Genji, you know, he's not a good guy to be babysitting, but at the same time, we're not literally feeding him to the wolves, right? Like, we're not literally just, like, throwing him out as tribute. We'll try and keep the guy alive, we're just not going to invest a ridiculous amount of our time here. We're going to heal him if he needs it. We're not gonna pocket him, right? Same if it's like the hard-stuck Widow. We're not gonna pocket that guy, right? We'll heal him. We're trying to keep people alive. That's what we're doing as a support, right? But we're not gonna pocket that guy. We're not gonna invest any more in this guy than we have to. Then, you know, we invest the minimum that we have to in that guy, and that means we can invest our maximum in the guy that is actually likely to win us the game, right? And, you know, that could be anyone. It could be, like, the Widow, the Genji. It could be the Reinhardt. It could be the Sigma. It could be your Ana. Who knows, right? Like, it could potentially be anyone that's gonna win us the game. But we want to spend as much time as we possibly can with that person. We don't want to be spending that much of our time with that guy, you know. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the question. It's not, basically, no enabling versus babysitting. Like, you want to be enabling as much as you can, not babysitting. The strategy's not wrong. But don't take that too far the other way and leave people to die, right? Like, keep them alive still, but invest as much of your time as you can in your carry, not your weight. So, anyway, now, moving on. Next question, this is the last question for this week also, is... is Moira a better support than Baptiste now? So, I mean, it depends, dog. Like, right now, I think Baptiste is still the best support in the game. Right? Like, Baptiste still got a lot going for him. They're nerfing him a lot, you know, we'll see how this one shakes out in the near future. You know, but as of right now, I still think that Baptiste is the best support in the game. Oh god. I can't open this drink. I'm too weak and feeble. It's okay, I'm sick, I'll blame it on that, not just the fact I'm terribly sad and pathetic. Gonna have to use a fucking knife to, like, cut the seal on it, how sad. Anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, I still think Baptiste is the best support in the game right now. But there's still a context to that as well, because Baptiste is not that good if you need... Ugh, fuck. to heal people that are hard to hit, right? Like, if you're playing with, like, a dive comp, it can be hard to heal that team as Baptiste, right? Moira is still not necessarily the support you pick for a dive comp either, because she tends to have trouble keeping up with a dive comp, because she's a fairly short-range healer, which is why you'd usually go with Ana. So there's a context here. Now, if you're in a situation where, like, your team is leaving you to die a lot, then Moira is still your best choice, basically, because nobody compares, like, support-wise survivability for me as Moira. Now, you could argue Lucio's also really, like, the best survivable support, but either way, main healer at least, no one's more survivable than Moira, as far as the support. So if you're, like, feel like you're getting, like, hung out to dry by your teammates, Moira is going to be better than Baptiste. Or if you just need, like, a lot of healing, right? Like, if the enemy team is, like, putting out a lot of damage, and you've got, like, a lot of, like, healthy boys, like, you've got, like, you know, like, let's go, like, Ryan Roadhog, Reaper May, you know? Like, this is a very, like, brawl it out kind of team with a lot of health. So, like, really high output AoE heals are going to be good for that. And Moira is going to be the one you go to for that kind of situation. Or if you need survivability. Your team could be helping you a lot, but you might still need the extra survivability of Moira versus Baptiste, because the enemy team could be doing a really good job of focusing you. In which case, you know, Baptiste is still going to struggle versus, like, Moira, who is incredible in terms of survivability. Yeah, so, like, I think right now, strictly on paper at least, Baptiste is better than Moira. But it's contextual still, because there are going to be situations where Moira shines over Baptiste, and there are going to be situations where Baptiste shines over Moira. So, after the nerf, it'll be a lot closer still, but I don't think it's, like, as clear-cut as, like, yes, Moira is better than Baptiste, regardless. So, yeah, that's kind of it. I don't really have anything else to say about that one, to be honest with you. So we're kind of done now. Just gotta wait for this game to end. Doesn't look like it'll be too much longer, but who knows? I'm known to be very bad sometimes. So I've kind of stopped playing Dragon Ball Super Broly. I still really like the guy. The problem is just that, like, I've talked about this before, my team is really bad. So it kind of gets really tedious not having, like, a good support or a good assist on your team. So, like, right here we're playing with Super Saiyan Goku. Like, basically the best anchor in the entire game. Because he's a really good character by himself. I mean, look at this guy. And he's got a really good assist, because it's the Kamehameha. I was playing Bardock in another game. I just really like Bardock, and he is better than Dragon Ball Super Broly. This is, like, undisputable. The thing is, that still leaves me with, like, no good assist, which is, like, the kind of the thing I'm going for here. Oh, let's just hope that Ultra Instinct Goku, like, has a good assist, or, like, Kefla has a good assist or something, you know? I don't want to play these boring people. I don't want to play Goku, he's boring. I don't want to play Vegeta, he's boring. I don't want to play Yamcha, he's boring, right? And these are all the people with, like, the best assist. I don't want to play Kid Buu on principle. On my tier list, we have God's Mistake tier, which is basically reserved for the character I hate the most. Previously, this was Cell. It's not Cell anymore. I'm over Cell. Cell got nerfed. I'm better now. I'm over Cell. God's Mistake has been expanded to 2 people now. God's Mistake currently is GT Goku, because fuck that guy. Both, like, on principle tier list wise, he's, like, undisputably the best character in the game right now, I think. I don't know why I say I think, everybody agrees on this. And, on principle, is fucking Dragon Ball GT, brother. No one liked that. That shit got cancelled after, like, 50 episodes. That shit had Baby in it. Now, to be fair, though, Super Saiyan 4, that's still probably my favorite Super Saiyan design, right? The, like, half-monkey version. That's probably my favorite Super Saiyan form. That shit's cool. If only GT got to just be that. But no, it's small Goku, so fuck that. Omega Shenron was also probably cool. Was pretty cool. Probably cool. He was kind of cool. He's probably going to be DLC for Season 3, if I had to guess, by the way. Because they like to do a villain, you know. Who are they going to do? Fucking Turles? Doubtful. Tree of Life was kind of cool, but... what's that other guy's called? What the fuck was that other guy called? The, like, big blue guy? Oh my god, it tells you how much impact this guy had on me. Holy shit, what was this guy's called? Dragon Ball. I know. Overwatch, right? Movie villains. Because, like, we got all the obvious ones, to be honest with you. So at this point, because we've already got Broly, we got fucking Janemba, we got Cooler, we got all the good ones. So we got, like, for the ones we got left, we got, like, Lord Slug. I guess they could do Garlic Jr. Garlic Jr. wouldn't be that out of there. You could do Bio Broly. Bojack! That's the one I was thinking of. He is a complete fucking loser and nobody wants him. So probably get Omega Shenron. What the fuck was I talking about originally? I don't remember. Bojack sucks. That's the moral of the story. Bojack fucking sucks. Yeah, oh yeah, Omega Shenron's probably gonna be Season 3 DLC. Yeah, that was like a tangent off another point, but I don't remember what it was. Ah, well. Oh, wait, the other God's Mistake is Kid Buu. Yeah, that's the one. Fuck Kid Buu. Really easy to play, really fucking good. Like the second best character in the game. Fucking hate that guy. Fuck him. Fucking cross you up in the corner. Not many people can do that. Anyway. Thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. More than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord, ask questions more directly, and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m. EST till 11 EST, not midnight. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.